right, it's to their benefit, but if they don't, you can't, lead a horse to water, but, you can't force them to take all the classes or any of them. But ideally, as fields of study really get ingrained and established at institution as some time goes by, I thought we got an excellent start yesterday. I think we're ahead of schedule. As you know, last time you got sent home with some homework assignments to think about what possible subfields might be covered by this field of study, what other CIP codes might be covered by it, as well as other issues. So with our appreciation extended again for our two co-chairs and all the good work they did yesterday, I'll turn it over to them again today to get us started.
Okay, thanks. Well, I guess the first thing we ought to look at again is to review what we did yesterday in the field of study for agribusiness. Anybody see any changes or suggestions?
Regarding the core courses, the chemical engineering, the chemistry or the biology, we put that as an option, but in our case, we need chemistry as a mandatory. We need students to take chemistry, and we can keep the biology as an option. But if we are keeping biology or chemistry, then students who are coming out with a biology can enter into can take one of the courses, which is 3426 AG course, which we offer there. It requires chemistry as a prerequisite. So if this is the case, then students can come up with a biology, any biology course, and then get into that course. That would be a problem for us. Second, 2373, which is the engineering, the agriculture engineering. The closely related one is the
Talking about the AgMech course.
Yeah, the AgMech course, and it is required for all the concentration, and it's a prerequisite for some of the upper level, advanced level mechanics course there. So that's a problematic for us.
I think the difficulty will be that, like it depends on where you are, but if you're at Sam Houston, you don't have to take the AgMech course, right? For the ag business major. At Kingsville, you don't either, but you do at yours, right? So I think we're going to have several of those. I don't know about chemistry. I hadn't thought about that. We're required 2 sciences.
Yeah, chemistry is required for some of the minors, but if you think about it, for the ag business students, why do they need chemistry?
Usually, I think most places they have to have just the 8 hours
Yeah.
of science, 2 courses.
No, I understand that for us, animal science minors, they need chemistry because they
Yes.
need to understand that.
Yeah.
But as an ag business major, where do they use anything they learn from chemistry?
So one of the courses that the requirement course that we need for the ag business is social science. Soil science, and for soil science, we need students to take chemistry rather than a biology. So that's an issue.
That's the difficulty, though, because that's just there,
Soil science
not
is
everywhere
not
else.
anywhere, right?
Well, I mean, I think the idea too behind this, giving options, is hopefully we at the JUCO level could advise those students and say, okay, if you're going to Texas State and you want to do plant science, you need to take the chemistry versus the biology.
Yeah, but the problem is that's a good side, but the other side will be students who take biology and then come to us and say that, hey, I completed the core course and you should, and
And even if they say, I'm going to, I mean, if, for instance, somebody at Cisco says, I'm going to go to Angelo State, I'm going to go to Angelo State, I'm going to go to Angelo State, and then at the last minute decides to go to Texas State, you've advised them in terms of the field of study, don't worry about that chemistry course, then they make that switch. That puts a burden on Texas State then to figure out how to work around a prerequisite at the next, and I think that, like Roger said, we're going to run into a lot of those with individual agribusiness degrees. We probably each have certain courses that require upper or lower division courses at prerequisite that might not make it into a field of study unless we just make the field of study.
Now, I understand. Ideally, a student in ag business need to know soil science, need to know plant science, need to know animal science, need to know some ag engineering.
Absolutely.
But we don't have enough space there to.
So that's why, is there any way that we can keep that as an option open in the core, life? So right now we fix it with the biology, chemistry, and animal science, right? Can we keep it open so that we can go with our specification within the university? We can say that if you want to come to Texas State, you need to take chemistry.
Yes.
The FOS won't allow that. Means
Yeah,
if we complete this, they are complete.
So that's why I'm saying, like, if we are fixing it with the biology and chemistry, or chemistry, optional, then, we have to take the students who have taken biology, which is like a disadvantage for the student, because, when they come to the soil science, if they don't have any background in chemistry, they will be in trouble.
Is this where maybe some of those tracks that we've mentioned
No,
might come
no.
in as an option?
It is for all the concentration, they have to go through the soil science one.
I do think, though, that there may be something that we're missing. So if a student comes to Texas State and says they want to be an ag business major and they have to take soil, so they have to take chemistry, I think you still can require them to take that science. The animal science that comes in and the biology that come in, they still have to take biology at Texas State, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to come in with an animal science degree, an animal science course, right? That's going to substitute for the animal science course you have in your curriculum,
Yes,
correct?
yeah.
The biology is going to substitute for the biology, so they're not going to lose anything. They're just going to have to take a chemistry as a prereq for the soils, and they really don't lose anything, though, I don't think.
So in that case, if they come up with a FOS complete, and we cannot ask them to go and take a chemistry course before this 3426, which is soil science.
I think you can. If soil science is required, they have to take that other course.
Is that the case, Dr. Owen?
Well, you can't ask them to take another course as a prerequisite if it's not in the field of study. So prerequisites for courses don't trump the field of study. Is that what you're asking?
So they can't take soils, so they won't graduate in ag business.
Soils and upper division level course, right?
Right.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you need to have chemistry as the prerequisite for that?
Correct.
Well, then you need to put chemistry in the field of study, because if you have it here where they have a choice of biology or chemistry, if the student chooses biology, you're going to have to accept that.
As biology, right?
As biology, right.
I think we're missing it, because that's not what happens at the university. When they come in, if they've got a prereq, they have to take the prereq. Maybe we're not doing it right.
Now they're trying to change that. Even at SAM, we have an order to find out all the hidden prerequisites like that. They are not a part of the real degree plan, but students end up taking that because that's required for some of the upper level courses.
Yeah, that totally
We are
undermines the
eliminating
whole
all
field
those.
of study. So if you are going to insist that they have chemistry, then you need to take out the choice and make them take chemistry if soils is a frequent, upper division level requirement in these programs.
So it's required for any other university other than?
I don't think so. It's not at SAM anymore.
No.
Was at one time, now it's not.
No.
It wasn't, I don't know if it ever has at Kingsville. Angelo? No? No.
Now, the only workaround to that is if you keep a choice of biology or chemistry.
That's something we already included, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, so like.
Is there a different math prereq for chemistry? Or, like, if you took chemistry, do you have to have another?
It depends on the
Entrance.
chemistry. I think for the 1405, I think, which is for chemistry majors, requires college algebra, I think is a prereq.
Does it matter which chemistry class they're taking? Or,
Chemistry 1, the 1411, right?
Yeah, 14.
Yeah. So I think there's no prereq.
1411 doesn't have.
So if we did this, what we'd be doing is we would be putting animal science into our major. We would be losing animal science in the core, and we would have to look at one of our requirements for the major or add to it, right?
This is a question. So when we had the discussion about the core yesterday, if we are keeping that core without any specification, they can come up with a particular course within the core, and the university can say that, okay, we need chemistry to be as a prerequisite, and they have to take it if they want to come to Texas State. Is that the case, or?
No,
That's what he's saying, no.
yeah.
That's what I thought was true, but that's not
No,
apparently true.
you can't require any additional lower division prerequisites if they're
They
not in
just
the field
don't have to
study.
If they
take
are
it.
coming with core complete and FOS complete, we cannot require them to take any 1,000 or 2,000 level courses.
Wow.
So remember in the communication discussion that we had yesterday. So we said that we keep it open so that anyone with any communication will be they can take, and then it depends on the university to take it, right?
No. After this is complete, we cannot do anything.
Yep. That's what they're
Now,
saying.
this is where your transfer agreements and your articulation agreements can still work with a field of study. If you have a preference that your students take either biology or chemistry, then you can work with your frequent transfer partners, where probably 75% of your transfer students are coming from one or two community colleges, right? Make sure that those advisors know to tell their students, since you have a choice of biology or chemistry, remember, Texas State has upper division requirement of soils, and you're going to need to take chemistry. So let those advisors know that that's what you prefer. Similarly with communication, you don't have a communication course specified for good reasons that you talked about yesterday, but if your transfer students are largely coming from one or two or three community colleges, then let those colleges know to advise their students, please take professional and technical communication for your communication score if you have a choice, because that's what we would like to see here at Texas State or Texas Tech. Now, if you use that, then that's their choice, and you're still going to have to swallow it. But you can tell them at least that's what you'd prefer and cross your fingers.
Okay, let me ask you this question. For the universities, how many 4-hour courses are required for an ag business undergraduate? For you?
Plant and soil science may be the only one.
For you?
We require the 2 4-hour, I suppose, lab sciences.
Okay.
Oh, animal science too, so we have two. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so that's why we require 4 4-hour classes. 2 in the core, that they are free, biology, chemistry. If they're an animal science minor, then they need chemistry. Then 2 outside the core, that's animal science and plant science. So we need 4 4-hour classes. So I see. But I'm fine putting chemistry in there as standalone rather than biology, because soil processes, it's better.
So then that leaves us with either removing something in the, and I don't know, component area option in the core, the 6 hours, Alan, what is that?
Well, that's just,
CS6.
right, those are just options in the core curriculum that each institution can set for their own students. Quite often, they're foreign language courses. A college or a university can say, this is something special to our university, to our population, to our region. This is something we want all of our students to have. So they give them some special options there. Other times, institutions often use them to fill up lab hours with. Like you'll notice here, we've got, for some strange reason, there's 3 hours, well, I should say 6 hours required in life and science core, but almost always those courses are taught as 4-hour classes, which makes me a little nuts. Why didn't they just make it 8 hours of science instead of 6? But they didn't. So there's going to be, for almost all students, 2 extra hanging semester credit hours left over, right, from this requirement. Those often end up having a permanent home in there here in the component area option to make sure that students can still graduate with no more than 60 semester credit hours.
Alan,
So it's kind of a catch-all for some institutions. It's kind of a reserved slot for some institutions. It's the back door to get foreign language in for some institutions. So it really does vary.
Can we utilize that?
I'd recommend against it. I think you could use one of those 2 slots if you had to clean up extra lab hours. That's what animal science did. But I'm not happy about it because the institution sometimes really jealously guards those. You all are in a better position to give examples and answer to this question than I am to say what it is your institution does with your component area options.
Well, I can give an example that has to do with the life and physical science. So a lot of at least what we're seeing in terms of transfer students, they're transferring in, it's a 4-hour, we require a 4-hour chemistry or biology, but they're taking it as say a chemistry 1311 plus an 1111 lab or something like that, or 1011 or something like that. So it's technically two separate courses. Well, they'll transfer in the 1311, but not the lab or something like that. And so I think what we're about to do is require just the 3000 level lecture course in there, still require the lab, but place those hours down in the component area, because we're seeing more of that split where it's not just a 1400, say a 1406 or a 1411, it's 1311 plus 1011 or 1111.
At the community college level, that component area option, as Alan mentioned, is heavily guarded because that's where they've typically placed classes that had been in the core that then were removed from the core. That's where they move them to. I can think of examples when we used to teach many sections of COSC 1401. We had huge amounts of computer science faculty, and then COSC 1401 was removed from the core, and many colleges moved COSC 1401 to the component area because they essentially would have to have had a RIF because of that. So I think, as you mentioned, the community colleges will push back very hard in the public comment section if we manipulate that component area option.
Sometimes they're used for physical education courses too. You know, that a college wants you to take 1, 2, or 3 hours of physical education courses. Take some tennis, take some swimming, right? Take weightlifting or aerobics or something like that. And that has to go in the component area option.
That may also be where the general ed sort of like we have a general studies, how to be a college student as a freshman course.
Right.
That's where a lot of that goes into as well.
Back to the science issue real quick. I'd almost rather see us leave that as a blank 6 hours and move animal science back down below than say you have to take chemistry. And here's the reason why. Ag business, when we have an ag student come in that is terrified or do not want to take science courses, they're more willing to attempt to get through the 2 business math classes and complete this degree than go an animal science or a horticulture or wildlife science route because they're terrified of chemistry and or majors biology. I think y'all will lose potential students by putting that requirement in there, and the reality is, based on size of faculty at some of our smaller junior colleges, occasionally you get somebody in there teaching chemistry that we can't get our students to take.
Well, looking at A&M Kingsville's, after you mentioned that, we do have chemistry listed as a course. In my mind earlier, I thought, well, they'll just have to take chemistry before they can take plant science. And that's not true, I guess. So I don't know how to handle that, though. I think, do we just put 8 hours of science, or 6 hours in this case of science, and leave it open? Seems like that won't work.
Do we have is there a large amount of students going into plant sciences versus animal sciences? Like, do we just need to separate those two out is what I'm asking? Because, I mean, if we're talking solely about plant science,
No,
Is
the
it
plant
something-
science, the enrollment is going down, animal science is going up. But the issue is that for ag business people, they need to understand the basics of work.
So I guess what you're saying, Rance, is that we put in just take 6 hours of science, and then they could take any science, and we would have to do substitutions.
I've just always thought for this degree plan, when we send students on, that one of the positives of this degree plan was the flexibility of the sciences as an advisor, but maybe it doesn't need to be that way anymore.
But then, the problem is like, if you need a chemistry for the courses, and if the student does not have that knowledge, then that's not helping the student. That's the issue.
If they're going to be ag
If we
business,
take
then they're going to have
the
to
animal
take-
science out, then we're in the same boat. We have animal science as a prerequisite for a lot of our
Yeah.
upper division
Yeah, and I don't think we can take animal science out of the whole package. So I would think we may want to consider then biology and chemistry as the sciences, like we talked about. And then I think you have to put animal science now down in the requirements. The one course we added, to me, that's not brand new, it's a good course, but like Kingsville would have to create it, is the 1325.
Right.
So what we may have to do is put animal science in the place of the Ag 1325.
I'm okay with it because we don't need 1325 as a requirement, but you guys need it.
Sam has it.
Sam,
Yeah, I'm
lose a
not
course.
trying to look at it from what Sam needs, what Kingsville needs. Let's probably look from the perspective of the students. What does the student to learn
It's a
ag
good
business?
course.
What will prepare them to learn ag business, perform well in the upper level courses? Those are the courses we need to recommend to them.
or another suggestion is like we have 2 accountings as a requirement to the major, right? We can remove one of the accounting and then keep animal sciences as
That would be a better thing because you're cutting our throats on the junior college level. Any course that you take out of there, such as 1325.
1325 to me is a good course, like what you're saying. We don't have it, but it's still a good course. The only struggle I would have with as an agribusiness, having those 2 accounting sets them up for the rest of their work. What would be wrong with us then? Because the other trouble I have, I don't know about y'all have it, I have trouble taking animal science out too, because everybody's pretty much got that. And animal science, just like what you said, it's the second largest major in nearly all of our places. So what if we just added it to?
Okay, what is the problem if we just keep it like this, take the biology out, put the chemistry in there, because none of us require a biology for any upper division classes, isn't it? That's what I think. We don't require. I don't know if any of you require.
no, we don't.
It's in our degree plan.
It is, they can take, but it's not required, isn't it?
It's not a prerequisite.
It's
for
not a
anything.
prerequisite for any of the courses.
I think it's not for animal science?
No.
No.
Let me look.
At SAM, we have like 2 courses open. You can take anything, but you can take biology, but you are not required to take biology to move into any.
I think the only way the biology would be required is if they were pre-vet. That would be why you would, as an animal scientist, take biology and chemistry and physics and all of those.
All the sciences, yeah.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
that'd
that would be
that'd
for
Not for
pre-vet.
ag business, if they are in
For
the animal
production.
science with pre-vet, yeah.
Alan, in your opinion, what will be the response if the biology chemistry option was removed and it was just a chemistry option?
It's hard for me to say. I think I would just refer back to whatever we have here in this list. And ask yourself, of these courses that are most often required, how many of these, if any, are going to have a biology prerequisite? Maybe animal science, does that have a biology prerequisite?
Does
And
not.
no,
Okay.
No institution.
Horticulture? No.
no.
So, I don't know, you could probably get away with it. Agricultural industry, I doubt it. So,
Okay, and
down
look at
here
the
in the
animal
general
science,
zoology,
FOS.
and even that's a lower division course that, well, see, I don't have, this is
it
just the lower
listed.
division courses, so this isn't gonna really a good way to
Oh, really?
prerequisites.
Like in the general animal science FOS that he gave us, they have chemistry 1 and 2 as their math, or as their sciences. Biology
chemistry
doesn't
seems to
come into
be-
play until pre-vet track.
Yeah.
That's only when
Yeah.
they are required.
Well, and looking at Kingsville, they've got a huge vet technology program, pre-vet as well, and their prerequisites are a bunch of the vet tech courses. Biology didn't even make the list.
Okay.
It's a prereq.
Well, chemistry is required at Stephen F. and A&M Kingsville and Texas State. We have these two institutions here, so you can tell us how you use chemistry. Is it required or just accepted?
We require that as a prerequisite for some of the upper level courses.
Okay. Are those upper division level courses required for the agribusiness major, or are they options?
For his, it's soils. Yeah.
So for soil, soil is for all the business major, all the business concentration, and everyone has to take the soil. And for soil, chemistry is a prerequisite. So it is for all.
And Roger, what do you think? How is chemistry used at Kingsville?
It's listed on the degree plan. I don't know if it's a prerequisite for some of the animal science courses. I don't know if it's required for plant and soil science. I'm looking.
Yeah, at SAM, what we do is when students come for advising, we ask them, are you an animal science major or a plant soil science major? If they are an animal science or plant soil science minor, then they need chemistry. But we require them to take 1406.
Well, one way around the problem is to create two fields of study, one for those going into soil and plant-based tracks, and one going into animal studies-based biological agribusiness.
So to clarify,
And one can have chemistry and one can have biology. Otherwise, they can be the same.
So to clarify, we could create multiple fields of study, and then can the 4 years say we will accept this field of study but not that field of study? We could do that. And so like Angelo State, which is primarily in terms of agriculture and animal science department, we could say we'll take the animal science field of study track but not the agronomy track because we don't teach agronomy courses.
Yes,
We could do that.
right.
Then it'll again come back to the original one, isn't it? If I'm saying that I'll accept this, he's saying that he'll accept this, then again the students will be
Yeah,
back to
I mean, it's not ideal. I mean, it'd be great if there was one field of study with no ambiguity applied to everybody. That'd be great. But if that's not what it needs to be, then that's not what it needs to be. And do like animal sciences did and create one for general academic and one for pre-vet. And for those students who have a career interest in one side of things, then they can follow that track and the other can follow the other track. The catch is that there will be some students who will complete a field of study in like plant science, and then they'll end up transferring to an institution that doesn't have that one, in which case they're considered field of study incomplete. But there's usually only one or two classes difference between the two, so the student would probably, the institution would still have to accept all the field of study courses that they did take, and then add to that whatever else was missing. So if a student completed the animal studies track of agribusiness, and all you offer is science of plant science without the animal stuff, then the student would have to take an additional chemistry class or,
So I thought they couldn't be required to take additional courses.
Well, if you have a track set up and the student chooses a track that your university doesn't offer, then you'd consider them field study incomplete because they didn't take the track that applies to your program.
So what we could do is,
That's why it's not ideal, but if
Seems
that's what it
too
needs to
sneaky.
be, then that's okay.
Who just,
that may be what it needs to be just because of the variation in the amount of prerequisites and whatnot. I mean, one thing we could do is require sounds like chemistry may be the one science that is more often than not going to be a prerequisite. And so require the chemistry as one of the two life and physical science, so three out of the 6 hours. And then maybe down in our field of study in the green where we have the horticulture lab or agronomy lab, maybe set up different tracks for different areas of study in terms of agricultural production, an animal science track or whatever we want to call it, livestock production or whatever we want to call it, animal production, crop production, something
Are there a lot of
along those lines.
universities that don't have horticulture and agronomy besides Angelo?
Oh no, we need horticulture or agronomy. I mean, not both, like either one of those as a requirement.
Yeah, we also need plant and soil science.
Here's what I'm seeing happen at this point, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're getting away from our original task and mission of developing a field of study that will work to ensure the 60 by 30 goal and benefit that, and we're getting bogged down in an awful lot of, well, my university won't allow this, my university won't allow that, rather than us do what we're set forward to do. And then, I'm sorry, but some universities may have to make an adjustment if they want our students.
I completely agree with that. So let's go back and see what the students need, then ask the university to
Well, we may.
I completely, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I completely agree, but if some of the advanced level courses require some of the prerequisite, which is essential for them to learn those things, it is better to keep that as a prerequisite for those students, so that they will be prepared for any of the advanced level courses. That's what my intention is.
Well, based on the chemistry is pretty much in everyone's degree plan. Based on what Brandy just said, biology is not listed in the animal science FOS. So I think we're worried more about this than they were, which doesn't make any sense at all. And again, looking at our degree plan, I had to see biology is not a prereq for any of those. What if we take animal science and leave it where it is and take out the biology, or just make that chemistry? And then we can, the only negative I think Vance was looking at is chemistry is not an ideal course kids take, but it could. It's just it's required at all our institutions, so I don't know how we're helping them by not letting them get that course out of the way. If
we keep that as a prerequisite, or if we keep that as a requirement, and it helps them in their success, in future, they have to take this one. Otherwise, if they come to that, so one of the problem that we face is there, if those students who are in the advanced level, if they don't have the knowledge, the basic knowledge of the chemistry, and if they are sitting in a soil science class, and they will be in trouble. It's not like, we are trying to push what we have, but, this is something that we are prepping the students so that you can take the advanced level courses.
So, yeah, essentially, I think we should take that reverse approach. Look at what are the upper level courses we teach, or what are the requirements for the students? What should they know when they graduate, and how we can best prepare them? By what courses should they take to be prepared to be successful at the end?
I know the other thing I was thinking on at A&M Kingsville, it's not everywhere. It could be at Sam Houston, that may be, but a lot of our students we have the ranch management option in the major, which is popular with kids. It requires animal science courses like feeds and feeding nutrition. Chemistry is the prereq for all of those. Sam Houston, I don't know how many still do it, but the agribusiness animal science major minor combination is popular.
Yeah, we have around 80 minors in animal science out of 220. So
Which I was trying to do what y'all did at Sam, and they wouldn't let us, so we ended up with a whole other degree called ranch management. But basically, it's ag business and animal science and range mixed, another place that chemistry is required. So trying to compare the sciences, I wasn't thinking of it at all, but chemistry seems to be repetitively repeated in so many areas. I don't know how you get away from it, actually.
No, I agree with that.
And I don't want to lose 1325, honestly. I don't want to add more courses to our, you know what I mean? We're running out of options on the other end. And so maybe the answer is right here, I think. Creating different FOSs, I worried about that just because it seems way too confusing for the kid. They don't even know what they're going to do when they're a junior, but when they're a freshman going somewhere, they think they know. I don't think they know. And if we put them into tracks that let them fall off into crevices and cracks, they want to go to Texas State. That's where they're going to go. And so we're setting them up to be in a bind, and we're not helping anybody. So to me, I think you drop the biology, I think you put in chemistry, and I think we can leave our content area that we have. I hate to mess with that. That'd be my proposal.
I agree with that.
I agree too. I think we could go along with the chemistry if we could keep the other, keep the other
Yes.
parts intact.
I don't want to lose that 1325. I think that's a good course, and y'all are teaching it,
Yeah, we don't have it.
and you
but,
don't have it.
yeah.
We don't either.
Yeah.
But I think it's good for the students.
Yeah, so
Y'all have it.
yeah, I'm fine with that, because
Okay.
Actually, Sam Houston, we don't require accounting 2301, 2302, but we are really glad that the students are coming up with that. I really want them to take that, but that's not in our degree.
I'd like to develop it. So how does that, I know that's not ideal with the junior colleges.
Alan, can you please change that on the left? Yeah, thank you.
So that wrestles us with that. Any other thoughts on our, and I think what Vance said is exactly right. We need to stick to our task. So really the agribusiness, FOS, is what we're really tasked. Next, we may move to all of the other, move my papers around now, all of the other potential tracks that may or may not align with it. But before we do that, what else do we think on our agribusiness?
I would like to revisit, just looking at this last night, thinking about it, I really do think that we need some kind of elementary or basic statistics course in the FOS. I think that that some sort of statistical analysis course is important once you get into your upper level agribusiness course, at least a few of them. I think that not having that in there, allowing a student to go into those upper level courses without some sort of training in statistics is going to hurt them.
How many universities require an elementary statistics for their ag business degree at this point?
We require
We have a
it more than the requirement. When I think about it, it is helping the students to be successful in the upper level quantitative methods. So all of us have an upper level statistics class, isn't it?
My comment is if it's required at your institution, y'all can require it once they get there. We don't have to.
No,
if it's a lower
we
level
cannot.
course.
Not what they
If
were
we are
saying
FOS
earlier.
complete, then we cannot force them to do anything.
So what math do y'all have for stat at your?
Elementary statistics. So we call it 1369, but that's not the common course number. Do you know the common course?
We don't need to take them a statistics course, but we ask them to go for a second option math. The first option is like the math for business and soil science, social science, and then we also require them to go with a second math option. That can be like, if other university wants statistics, then, that second math option can be included as a statistics course.
For the smaller community colleges, the statistics course, while I agree it is very much needed, I don't know how they're going to logistically pull that off. They don't have the staff, because there'll be a certain number of students required for a section to make. And if this is the only one of the degree plans that requires it, I don't know at the beginning if they'll have enough student enrollment for them to even offer the course. And then that puts the students, while it's beneficial to them, it could run the risk of delaying them even more.
Well, the core only requires 3 hours of math. In our degree plan, we've got 6. Y'all have 6 too, don't you?
Yeah.
Which one?
In math, in our degree plan at Kingsville, we have 6. Everybody's probably got 6 hours.
Yeah.
Could that statistics
to.
course be a math option?
Well, but,
So,
okay.
yeah, we need 6 hours of math. So
Yeah, we need to.
And there's only 3 listed here in the core. Is that new, Alan, or has it always been 3? It's always been 3.
The 3 in the core and 3 is degree specific. So that's a total 6 hours.
So then that means we're back down into our requirements for the major for the second math.
Well, I guess then the question might be, which one is more important, the statistics or the other accounting? Because I think that's what you'd have to sacrifice one of the.
Yeah.
And I don't know which one would be the more important.
I would be more inclined to sacrifice the marketing of agricultural products or the horticulture or agronomy.
That
lab.
is
I mean, if
not
we're-
going to happen from the junior college side.
What's that?
Giving up any more courses. I think you'll see a major uprising from our administration if we're whittled back on what we can offer anymore.
In the ag area, right?
Yes. So universities continue to add upper level courses and decline or decrease what we're allowed to offer. And pulling that back to plug in courses that meet specific desires of universities is going to create problems.
Well, I know in statistics at A&M Kingsville, we removed the stat, and we just Business 1 and Business 2 math, but we have a 3,000 level course in statistics that one of our animal science profs teaches. And so we felt like it was a better way, but I don't know.
I think all of us have an upper level class. I'm just thinking about preparing them to do better in this upper level class. So
Yeah, so we are similar to whatever the Kingsvilles have. Like, we need to take them a basic math and then another second option math in order to be eligible for that 3,000 level statistics course. I mean, that's something that we have right now, but adding a statistics course is elementary statistics course will help them to prep for that course.
Well, for me, if we were to look at wrestling with this second math, as much as I don't like it, I think you almost have to deal with the accounting, 2302,
Or we can.
or one
I
of the
mean,
accountings.
we can require, instead of 6 courses, we could require 7 in the field of study.
Yeah, there'll be a FOS complete with 7, but they can do anything less than that and get credit for all that, isn't it?
You mean add a course?
Right.
Yeah.
So we could go 7, in that green area, 7 courses instead of 6, and so,
I guess that's what civil engineering did, but like added 20 courses. So the math 1324 is at the top. That matches the math that Kingsville has. The second math we have is 1325.
The one
But
with
the stat
statistics-
is
one with
different.
statistics is 1342.
Oh, I see it.
Common goes. We call it a 1369. I don't know. It's everything.
But we would list the 1342 if we did it.
Is that not in the list?
It is in the common courses. If you 1342 elementary statistical methods. Collection analysis.
How well are those accounting courses taught at the junior college level? The people you have teaching those, that's a vague
It
question.
depends on, very similar to a lot of the science classes. It depends on the quality of the instructor.
Yeah.
Eh,
Is accounting an easy area to find people
No.
to teach in? I would think
No, it's very difficult.
No, and-
Ours at Blinn are CPAs.
And
That's
on-
good, actually.
And
Boys are.
I will echo that at Weatherford. Ours is, it's very difficult to get our students to take those courses on campus.
Accounting is probably some of our hardest courses, our most difficult courses at Blinn, and ours are mostly all taught by CPAs.
Well, ACC has a large accounting department, but it's mostly trying to get accountants straight into the field with their associate's degrees. But I mean, I would be confident with students coming out of our accounting classes.
They're being taught by CPAs. They're probably better than the university accounting. Well, I wouldn't be against it. I think the accountings are really important to an ag business kid. To me, in general, it's the most valuable area. So what if we looked at adding another math to the requirements for the major? Do we do 1325 or the stat, or do we just go straight to the stat? Kingsville will take that stat as the second math is what'll happen for us.
Which one is that? 13?
I'd be okay with an either or.
Yeah.
I think that 1325 has some of the basic
Yeah.
statistic
what-
principles in it, enough that they could go into an upper level quantitative analysis class.
And that gives a little flexibility in here, maybe.
Which one do you say?
Doing a
1325.
either or 1325 or elementary stats.
Currently 2.
Yeah, 1325, I'm okay with 1325.
1325 is calculus for business.
Yeah.
and social science.
Yeah. Or elementary statistics.
Yeah.
Alan, would that be a huge departure from norm if we had an extra course in there?
Sam Houston and Stephen F. Austin.
Yes, math, math 1325, so business,
1325 or math 1342.
yeah.
25 calculus for business and social sciences.
Before we do that, can we see how many universities actually require that class?
Which one, the 1342?
We're showing 2 on this chart.
A lot of many universities, I think, have their own, or that there are quite a few that have their own lower level quantitative analysis or statistics course that they teach within their discipline. And so,
Let's see how many need that.
so we teach an agricultural statistics course. I think Texas Tech has a 2000 level agricultural statistics course.
Yeah, we require one. Stephen F. Austin requires one.
At the lower level.
The lower level. Yep.
Well, I think really the issue is all the universities have 6 hours of math. So if you've got 1324 taken, right, there's one, and then we're coming in and saying you've got to take 1325 or you've got to take stat, that's really just that second math. And even though only 2 have elementary statistics, if you look up at math 2413, calculus 1, 3 people have that listed. And then if you look up at math,
24, 12.
So basically,
Some kind of 2 math courses.
there's a wide agreement. I think that there needs to be 6 math courses in the
Right.
degree, just maybe divergence on
which ones?
which 6. And so doing, I think, what we have here, and we may even add, I don't know, that math 2413 in there as the or, but basically
6
ensure that we
hours.
have some place in all these degrees that we're not taking away a course basically out of their lower division math requirements when we set up this field of study.
I think with the or of the because I know a lot of students are already taking the 1325, the 1324, 1325 sequence, and having the option between the two, I think is going to be a better arrangement if we add it than
Yeah. They'll take 1324 and 1325, and that's what'll happen most of the time.
I think that
Yeah,
that'll prep them for an upper level quantitative analysis course. Yeah.
Well, yeah. That is, I mean, if we look at what kids are lacking, we probably all would agree it's one of
quantitative.
it's quantitative mathematics, it's math, and so they don't get it in high school as well as they should, and so it's a struggle all the way through when they graduate.
That's something that I have observed. Like more than 70% of the students, they struggle when they get into some kind of quantitative skills.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm teaching statistics course too. That's one of the things that we struggle. Like, we most of the students are not at all interested in the math, and then we need to create the interest first, and then make their skills, develop the skill, and then we have to teach the statistics. So that's something that's really important. And with the second math option, it will keep them prepared for the advanced level.
I have a question. Now we have the total 64 hours. Is that an issue? We need to limit at 60, isn't it? Yeah.
So adding this is
Well, okay, do you want the 3-hour version of these courses or the 4-hour?
3 hours.
Yeah.
3-hour, okay. Is anybody requiring calculus for business and social sciences? I don't see math 1325 at all on the list.
it's required at Kingsville. It's not on the list here, but it's required at Kingsville.
It's required for some of our concentration. For horticulture concentration, we don't. For horticulture, we don't need the second math, but for the other concentration, we need the second math.
Okay. Well,
They have math.
if it's 64,
And then math.
if it's 36-hour field of study, a student isn't going to be able to complete the whole core and the whole field of study. So they're going to have to take additional core courses after transfer. They're going to have to take 4 additional course, 4 additional hours right after transfer. which means institutions will probably have to, upper division institutions will probably have to cut 4 hours out of their degree plan to make sure students can graduate in 120 hours.
Can you explain a little bit more? I'm a little bit confused. So 60 hours is the limit for the students to transfer.
Yeah, and most often institutions will accept a maximum of 60 semester credit hours for transfer students.
Yeah, but I don't know, we accept 66.
Okay, well, there's some exceptions, but most institutions will accept a maximum of 60 hours. So if your field of study is over 60 hours, if the whole degree plan takes more than 60 hours, that's okay if that's what it needs to be, like I showed you civil engineering. But if it's over 60 hours, then if students are transferring in 64 semester credit hours, because they're going to have to accept all the courses in the field of study, then institutions will probably have to trim from their upper division courses 1 or maybe 2 courses to make room for all of these courses in the field of study that by law they have to accept. So it's okay if this is what it needs to be and this is what you want to do, but just realize the cost of having a big field of study like this one, 36 hours, is, if you look at this list here, I don't know what the average number of lower division requirements are for institutions. It's hard to tell sometimes because many of these courses are offered as things they would accept in a list of choices. I'd have to go back and check and see what the average is. But you're probably looking at institutions having to cut at least 1, maybe 2 courses from their degree plan to make room for all this.
At the senior level.
At the senior level, right.
Something else we could do is move the Ag Eco up to the social science portion. It's already, I know it's not in everybody's core, it is in our core that way, and it's also cross-listed in the component area.
It's not in our core.
No.
I don't know if
Is math for
But that's
business
just a
and
way
social science?
to cut those hours
But we,
down.
my opinion would be that an agribusiness student needs both the macroeconomics course and some sort of microeconomics training.
The 2317 is the substitute for the micro.
Well, and we may come back and address that in a field of study for Ag Eco, maybe in agribusiness, or would that not matter? At those econ levels, they need both.
I would think they need both.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I think what we need to do is, I don't think anybody want to sacrifice upper level classes. So
I don't think so.
I think our bind then becomes, to me, the accountings possibly. I think they're important, but yeah, it's either those accountings or that 1325. The trouble with the 1325, I think, is the junior colleges are teaching it. The other trouble is, I think it's a good basic course to get a kid maybe to be a major in ag business and come to our universities. It doesn't sound like it would kill us at the university level. It would help the junior college level. The only thing accounting would hurt for me is that if a kid wants to be a general business minor, they'll require both those accountings. So I don't know what we do about that, but.
Could you offer a choice between principles of macroeconomics and principles of managerial accounting?
very different.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
No.
Yeah. Talking about the core, yeah, I don't
Could
think.
you make it a choice on the 2301 or the 2302 accounting?
The problem is that 21 is a prerequisite for the other.
Is it? I was trying to look that up. Is 2301 prereq for 2302?
In most places, I think so.
We can go with within the tracks, just like you said, those who some of the concentration, if those who need the managerial accounting can be included as a requirement, but for the general one we can take that off.
I think yesterday the consensus of the group was y'all would like for them to have that when they got there, but it was not a requirement everywhere. Is that correct?
Which one?
The 2302.
No, it's in all our degree plans, I think.
Yeah, it's at Sam Houston it's not required, but I told you I would like the students to take that, but it's not required.
Oh, it's not.
It's
2302 is not.
We don't require 2301, we don't require 2302, we don't.
Because you've got to pick a minor.
Yeah, we need to pick a minor, and that's why we have the 2 additional courses, the analysis of ag sector and ag business financial analysis that will cover for this.
Yeah, the prerequisite for 2302 at Kingsville is accounting 2301 and math 1324.
On the list of the top transfer courses, the accounting is 5 and 6, right underneath math 1324, animal science and ag economics. So I don't know if we can really
Pull them both.
pull them.
Yeah.
If you look, yes, 8 institutions need 2301, 7 institutions needs 24.
Fun puzzle.
Do most upper division programs have an elective?
Yes.
Yes.
If they have an elective, they could take this extra 4 semester credit hours that are over the 60 and apply it as an elective. But it takes away an elective from a potential upper division class, but there is potentially room for it then if there's a slot for an elective.
So you're saying if they transfer to the university and they don't have, in this case, the accounting 2302, and we have an elective space, we can require them to take that and
Well,
use an
you could
elective?
you could use the hours from the field of study and apply it to the 120-hour degree plan as an elective. Again, it's not ideal, but it's a stopgap measure. Because the student will have to finish, they'll finish the field of study to be field of study complete, but they won't be able to finish the core. So they would have to take at least 4 hours of core classes after transfer. Maybe their American history, maybe their U.S. history or something like that. So there's got to be room in those 2 years left for them to take 1 or possibly 2 extra core courses.
So the 60 hours is the one that they are permitted to take from two-year colleges?
Right.
And you have to be able to graduate with an associate's with 60 hours. So you need that option at a community college.
Okay.
So even if, like, my degree plans, one of them I think is 1 semester credit hour over. So I had to drop a lab and be like, it's recommended that you take the lab, but I needed to drop one for my internal approval so students could technically graduate with that degree.
Okay.
And again, I guess I'm missing, it seems like we ought to have all the tools in the, all the tools available to us. The component area 6, the 6 hours, that option. We can't put Ag 1325 in there as a course?
Well, I know for our core, like at least three of those semester credit hours would be spoken for because
We
we
can't.
need to take the college effective readiness course. So
It's not in our...
well, I think at least at most community college, at least 3 of those semester credit hours are going to be spoken for. And then we'd have to petition to let them accept whatever other course that would be, because it's usually, it's kind of a grab bag, but there's mostly already courses.
Already in there. I see.
That's a good point. At some colleges, but maybe not all of them, a student could still do the field of study and the core if the college was willing to take one of these courses and put it in their component area option 6 hours. But we can't guarantee that, really.
Really, the changes we're making here kind of alter all of our degree plans at the Upper University.
one way or another.
I mean, we're going to go back and say, all right, strike this, strike that. That's what we're about to do if we're going to follow all the rules. Or people are going to say, we don't have to do that. And then we begin with the confusion. But all this seems to be affecting our majors. So if that's the case, we already have several, I think, small changes. Do we drop the accounting? I don't like it, or we drop the 1325.
I would propose maybe that we keep the 1325 and maybe consider moving the computers in agriculture course possibly to a component area, because we're giving it an option of a BCIS 1305 or the 1309?
Where would that go?
Could it go in the component area option as a, I mean, as a 3-hour possibility?
We do not have a computer requirement in our core
You don't
anymore.
No, do you?
One suggestion, like, 1325, it's marketed, it's a wonderful course, but, if we have, if the students have the basic knowledge of the agriculture economics and some math and agriculture economics and macroeconomics, won't be that enough for them to take an advanced level marketing course?
Yep. It's kind of difficult to explain because that course is taught very, very differently. Even though it's intro to marketing, it's taught as a survey course of different sectors in ag. That's what we use. But yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm going to leave it to the consensus of the team. I'm not going to say that we teach that, so we need that. Let's see if. I agree with what Van says also. We need to be very careful about what they have more options for the students to take. So ultimately we are doing all this for the students. So
Well, and it is scary, but even though we need all these things, we are taking the ag out of agribusiness. What makes us unique as agribusiness is the knowledge of the markets, and they have agriculture is a completely different accounting processes and adopted systems, completely different applications of economics than general business. And so it is a unique industry. So I hate to see our core, not our core, I hate to see our FOS for the major all of a sudden have one intro to Ag Eco and maybe a
and then
plant
look like
science.
business.
And exactly, and that's my fear, that we brand ourselves to look like a general business degree. And so I do think that analysis of the ag sector, the way that's taught, I think that course, and that's basic marketing, I really like it being in there. I hate to see it go. That's why I would take the ACTS to the accountings. Or I like what Christy just said. I forgot about that, but computers used to always be a general course all kids took in the core. Some places still have it, some don't. Is that an area we can touch that component area with?
That's where our BCI is in the optional component area.
But what does that do to the other junior colleges?
I mean, it's gonna be case by case, I think, for the most part. I don't think it would be difficult to justify putting it back in the component area.
Because of the BCIS or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just know, so I don't offer computers right now, but I could. And then I think we still have BCIS. I'll have to double check, but generally I think most colleges have that. So if we could somehow move that up, I think that would be best, because I don't think we can, if there's already been so many classes lost in the agriculture field at our level, if we don't have marketing on here, then that's just going to be another one that's going to get lost.
That's the trouble.
I agree with you. I hate to lose any of the agriculture courses, because we make, like I mentioned yesterday, we make the assumption that the students understand agriculture, and they don't understand agriculture. They don't come from backgrounds any longer that have any remote connection with it. And if we take the part that makes us, the study, important, if we take that out, they won't get it.
Yeah. And they probably won't major in ag business is what will happen.
Right.
They'll go major in business and we won't get them. So I don't know if it's possible, Advance, I don't know what that does for y'all, but if we move that computer course up as a core, then that would.
In that case, which category will it go?
Well, Christy's saying component area 6, or the component area with 6 hours.
Do y'all require more than just one course in the core? You know what I mean? How it's like it's a graduation requirement? We just have the effective, and then you can do communications or speech, but.
I don't remember from memory, and I had to pull it up. If we take a break, I'll pull it up and look and see what we require. I think we leave it fairly open at Blinn. I mean, it's kind of like I think, as you mentioned before, that's where a lot of the kinesiology courses have gone. So, like we mentioned before, I think it's doable. I think there could be some pushback, but I think that's just I would rather do that than see an FOS and with the core of 64. I think everybody, like we've seen, everybody around the table has taken some sacrifices. And I'd much rather it's to stay at 60 hours.
I'm okay with if it can be included in the component area, computers can be moved to that section, and that way we can keep that 60 hours.
That impacts this by far the least. Alan, is that an option for us?
What people say, if we take both of these courses and move them up here to component area option?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
Put this over by 1. Is that what we were over earlier anyway? That's from the lab.
I think on the
Those are 3
community
or 4
college,
hour, those are 3 hour courses, right?
I think on the community college level, we would be willing to take, if in terms of a lab credit, probably a horticulture or an agronomy lab credit rather than an animal science. Probably the animal science lab would be the most valuable if we had a lab course.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible that we could reduce the horticulture or agronomy component to 3 instead of 4.
Yeah, I had to drop the agronomy lab in my course, so it's an option. You can take the lab,
Right.
but it's not, that was one way that I worked around that extra.
The only
lab,
problem is that a lot of us teach it as a combined course. It's not separate.
It's not separate.
So it's a 1407, 1415, 14, whatever, 19, I think it is. It's not listed as 1307 plus the lab.
Yeah. Yeah, we're 1407, so it's all included.
Okay.
So it's just listed 1407, you don't have 1307/1107? Okay.
No.
We usually go with the 1307, so we don't require a lab for them to, for
Would the
them to-
1 hour extra be a problem for the senior institutions to find a place to put the 1 hour extra above the 60?
Usually not, because that place, usually they take a kinesiology course or something, so we can just pull that out and
So
put this.
it would be okay at 61 if we left it as is?
We could move that into our 1 hour general studies, how to be a college student course, and actually it's great.
Yeah.
Then I
It
think
makes it
we've
easy.
got a good base plan here.
So those are all good improvements. We thought we were done yesterday, but it's better today. I know, I thought we were just as a little routine, we were going to go past it. But I think
Yeah.
it's better now.
If we sit back and think about it for another day, then come back, we'll change everything. So-
No, we won't. Don't say that. I do think this is a good solution.
Yeah, I think it includes all the components that a student need for taking the ag business. So
I mean, I'm looking at our degree plan in Kingsville. We still have things we're going to have to just start altering to match this, but that's going to be true of everybody.
Yeah, we'll have to make a lot of changes to match to this one, but I'm fine with that.
Me too.
yeah, I mean, for us, as I said, like the engineering is one of the main cores that we consider. So in that case, we need to make some changes. So
Yeah. But overall, I think this gets a lot of ag into the FOS. I think this gets them a lot of the skill sets that we all are needing. So I think we could, if we say we're good here, then we could be good. I think, Alan, our next task was to look at the different, I'm using the wrong word probably, but pathways. Yeah.
So we need to look at all the programs
Alan, I
and see
think,
which one.
Alan, I
Yeah,
think
the one starts off with general agriculture.
Yes.
the math 1342 it need to be.
And then I created a couple of alternative FOSs we may think of, I don't know.
not seeing all the.
Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be messing with it. Trying to make it easier to read this on screen, it's just, sorry, it's a little tight. Trying to make it better, and I keep making it worse.
No, I think if you,
Now, Alan, you can just double click.
That's what I said.
That.
No.
Oh.
We were comparing notes to see which ones we think that.
Applies. Yeah, on the should the agribusiness FOS cover these programs, this list, Alan, can you pull this list up? But I looked at this last night and we talked about it a little bit. We may possibly, if you guys like it, we may want to create an FOS for general ag, because I don't think this appeals to general ag. And I don't think this appeals exactly to maybe ag econ.
No, I mean, I would say that we're looking at agribusiness management, general agribusiness, ag business operations, and the farm ranch management.
That's
would
what
be
I
the three
said,
that.
those three.
And I don't know that we should cover general ag or ag econ. Ag econ's just too limited across the state. I mean, there are only 2 programs that offer an ag economics degree, and I think it's sufficiently different as a discipline.
Yeah.
That's going to be an entirely different set of FOS courses, because you're going to have more math and more quantitative training to go into an ag economics program.
Yeah.
And basic and economics training.
So if we don't do a ag economics FOS, then what happens?
That's a question for Alan.
Well, I don't know.
How many?
If there's only 2 programs, we'll
Yeah, well, I
probably
think Vance
let it.
said yesterday, like, if those students are native students, we're not going to have those students transfer in, most likely.
I agree. I mean, I think
We,
that, I
we
mean, the
may
2
have
programs,
a few, but I think the majority of students coming through our programs are going to want to go the ag business route more so than ag eco.
I mean, the 2 programs are Texas Tech and Texas A&M. They're probably they can be selective, I think, on who they accept from a
That's
transfer
probably
standpoint.
true. Now, the general ag one, I do think we ought to look at an FOS for it, because it's the largest, well, it's not the largest, but it's a large number of schools offer it. And to me, the big difference is all of a sudden they need to have plant science, they need to have hort, they need to have animal, they need to have all those intro courses, and ag mech.
So do we have an FOS for interdisciplinary agriculture? I think
We
they will be
could.
better equipped to.
I spoke with our
look at-
assistant commissioner about this last night, and he was under the impression, because we talked about agriculture general, that might require a larger field of study committee, full 24 members.
I would agree.
With
I agree with
people
that.
with expertise in the various subfields involving this,
Yeah.
and maybe even some
totally-
subcommittees within that committee to discuss how that would work. And that might be something we'd have to look into a little bit later on and take with a little more slow deliberation, I think, to do general agriculture. Because I think you're right, it's very multidisciplinary. It's got many subdisciplines. And I think we need to be sure we had representatives of the major programs here, plus a really even distribution of the expertise to talk about that. So I think that's something we should probably table.
So then if
Al-
that's the case, go ahead.
I don't see it on this list. Does the general ag in the numbers that y'all pulled here for the 13, does that include your teacher certification programs?
that's a good
Or is
question.
that something separate? Because I'm not seeing that anywhere.
Yeah, probably, because the education programs are often listed as the same CIP code as the major itself, and the education component is just something that's added to the existing major. So it probably does reflect that, but there might be a CIP code in the education CIP codes that includes agricultural education and communication. So it might very well be.
I think Texas
So
A&M,
I'd have to check on that.
yeah, Texas A&M has its own, but I think everybody else is general ag with an ed minor added to it.
For us, we have ag business major and secondary education minor, they are going
As
for
an
teacher
option there,
certification.
which is unique.
But usually the interdisciplinary ag or ag ed people, they'll be better equipped to do that.
We have separate one, like one for major in agriculture and another one major in agriculture with the teacher certification.
Yeah.
So.
So I think most of them fall under general ag major with a secondary ed, or your ag or hort in secondary ed, so that Sam can do it lots of ways. But if we're looking at just our FOS and agribusiness, then I think, Alan, we're checking agribusiness and management general as a yes. Of course, we're checking the one underneath it, and then we're checking farm and ranch management. And then everything else, I think we're saying no to. Is that correct to y'all?
Yeah, completely agree.
Okay. And we're not trying to set up the FOSs for those others, and so I think that makes sense.
You sure about forest management, wildlife, fish, wildlife, science and management? Those are management degrees. I think the
Yeah,
field of
they're
study
gonna
would
be
work
very
for
Yeah,
that.
but it required a little bit other, like
I think that's sufficiently different from most of the agribusiness and ag production that
We got rid of biology, and they'll be all over biology. So, yeah.
Because when I asked natural resources about that, they said, oh, let's let ag business do it.
oh no, because they require a lot of ecology courses, which ag business they don't need it. So
Yeah, I
it should be a different one. So.
Yeah, those last three, all three of them, I think, are going to require more ecology, more biology, more specialized training that
Yeah, we're not going to be able to sign up for that.
we can provide.
I think we have an expert, Pradesh.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually a resource economist, so I've been in that field, but
Yeah. What we're saying is not going to fit, is it? Yeah. I would think no. We tried to do an agribusiness wildlife management combination degree, and yeah, no, it was a lot more hours, so that's where ranch management came into play. Any of that wildlife natural resource management is just going to be completely different.
Okay, so just to clarify, those 3 CIP codes go with the field of study we just created?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Could any of those no's be covered with some adjustments if you were to make a alternate field of study, particularly agricultural economics? Could we cut chemistry, add some more econ, and then call it an ag econ?
Well, an ag economics major probably isn't going to, I mean, it's more of an applied economics degree. And so, I mean, honestly, I don't know that any of the courses that we have in our field of study would be the best fit for an
Let
ag
me show
economics
you the
field of study. I
economics.
think that a strict ag economics major would need,
Some kind of math econ.
macro, micro, probably a calculus, probably the Math 2413 or whatever the basic calculus course is. Trying to think what else. It's been a while.
Here's the economics degree. It's tiny. It's just 12 semester credit hours.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we could do a field of study for ag econ. I think those base courses are not going to differ. I mean, we need to change what we have, but I think
My concern is that I don't know that it's something we necessarily need to worry about. There's only two programs
Could be.
in the state that offer it. They're larger. They're also not here. So I'm not really comfortable to be really honest. I think it's sufficiently different enough as a discipline. I don't know that it's necessarily something we need to worry about here. Maybe something to revisit later, but
Okay.
fair enough.
Okay. Looks good. My thought about the education is, since the education field of study generally adds 2 EDUC courses, 6 hours, you don't have room to add another 6 hours here. That would be a lot. So my recommendation would maybe to be leave that to the multidisciplinary studies education people. Plus, they're coming back in July, probably July or August, to have another meeting based on the public comments that they received. And I think they're going to completely refigure things so that there are a lot fewer fields of study. There's going to be the lower division elementary school fields of study. And then for grades 7 through 12, I think there's just going to be a math, a science, maybe a communications, and maybe an English language arts, to reduce all that so that there's not separate ones for history, for social science, for math, for journalism, blah, 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 all the way down the line. There's a long list of certification areas. So I'm not sure what they do with ag. They might put it in science, education, field of study. They might decide to put it in communications. Maybe they'll create something for plant, soil, agriculture, life sciences, animal studies, put it all under one umbrella. I just don't know. So maybe until they meet again, it might be better to hold off on creating something until we know what the report is from them. When multidisciplinary studies is finished, I can send you what they come up with later this summer and get your feedback on it. And this committee can always reconvene and take it up if we decide to, or if multidisciplinary studies decides they want us to. Because I'll pose them the same question. I'll say, what do you want to do with ag ed? Do you want to have this committee reconsider it, or do you guys want to take it on and put it in with what you're doing? And if they say they want your expertise to determine it, then I'll let you know that. And we can either come back and discuss it when we review the public comments, or we can have another meeting, or we can take a poll online or something like that. So I don't know, cross that bridge when we come to it. So that would be my recommendation, to kind of table that for now until we hear from multidisciplinary studies and see what their plan is.
Yeah, and
because you don't have room to add another 6 hours here on top of this. That would really be a heavy lift.
Well, and I don't think ag ed's really not a major, if I follow it right. Ag ed is a certification.
Yeah.
So you're always got a major, and then you get certified to teach. So I don't think it even has to be addressed through an FOS as a major, because it's just not a major.
Well, or it doesn't really matter at the lower division.
That's what I
Often,
guess I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an upper division thing where those ag ed courses get added on to the standard.
They get added
agriculture
anyway.
major.
But general ag is a major and probably requires another group to really do a good job.
Well, also, since this committee has decided that it's not doing general agriculture, that it's doing agribusiness, which I think is the right call,
Yeah.
is agribusiness taught in high school?
Taught in where?
In high school, I don't.
Or is it just general ag that's taught in high school?
It's a course in high school, but it's not.
I think they have maybe a general, like,
It's 6 hours.
yeah, like
Two courses.
a little general class, but it's not like, they don't have advanced courses in it. Like, I think in high school, they can take advanced animal science and regular animal science, and I think they may get 6 weeks or who knows of an agribusiness type.
Yeah, there is 2 courses in high school, professional communications and farm and ranch management. So there's 2 courses, advanced or lower level. It's not really true. None of them really cover anything. So they're just 2 courses like they take in high school.
Okay.
Out of 20 that we
okay,
take.
so that's can probably be handled by a general agribusiness major, could probably do fine if they were to get a teaching certification and teach high school based on your standard agribusiness major.
They do that at Sam?
And and I don't know if there's a special certification area for agribusiness, probably not, it's pretty.
No, but here, even though they are ag business majors, their course requirements are entirely different from upper level, entirely different from the other ag business majors. So when they are ag business major and secondary education minor, then they go and get advice from the ag ed people. So they kind of tailor their program to cover animal science, plant soil science, ag engineering, technology, everything.
Yeah, they have to take those extra ag core courses because they have to sit for an ag certification exam. And if they haven't had horticulture, plant science, ag mech, then they won't be ready. Yeah. So,
Okay.
so ag ed education is a certification at the upper level.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're not doing any additional subfields of study based on trying to cover any of these other CIP codes, if that's what I'm hearing, right? So we're
Right.
going to stick with this one. Great.
So we said that we can consider the FOS for ag business, business operations, different operations.
Yeah.
Do we need to come up with a separate FOS for different like a horticulture or like, animal science? Do we need to come up with a different FOS for each of the tracks?
I don't think so.
I think this will cover everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
We made sure that this covers everything.
I think it covers those three. I think those three majors are all the same. It just depends on where they are, right? So the ag business operations is got 10 programs. Agribusiness and management general has 3, and farm and ranch is 1. That's probably Kingsville. But all of those, to me, all of our FOS applies to all 3 of those at that lower level. If we started to dip off and say it also applies to general ag, we would have to create a new FOS. If it also applied to ag eco, we'd probably have to create a new FOS. But I think we're saying we're just not, we don't think our work applies. Is that right to y'all?
I'd agree.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Well, then that is largely it. You guys are ahead of schedule. I'm very deeply impressed. It's only happened a handful of times. One last piece of business, it would be, because we have to follow Texas open meeting laws, if the committee as a whole discusses anything relating to the committee's business, and a quorum of majority of the committee members are doing this, it needs to be advertised in the Texas Register. We need to have availability for the public to attend. We need to broadcast it on YouTube. So there are some minor bits of committee business that I would appreciate it if you could just vote to authorize the 2 co-chairs to do on your behalf, such as approving the minutes, such as making minor non-substantive changes to the field of study or the wording of the documents as necessary. Now, I would never do that, of course, without polling you or getting a sense of the committee's consensus, but you would be authorizing the co-chairs to execute that on your behalf and to take care of any other miscellaneous business on the committee's behalf in getting this through the public comment period and through the board approval process to keep us having to come back to have formal meetings on these matters. So if somebody would like to make a motion to that effect, that would be helpful. I'm not a committee member, so I can't do it.
Move to give the co-chairs the responsibilities you just mentioned.
I
Okay.
second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, excellent. Okay, so that'll be a big help. Okay, great. Well, what will happen next is this will go out for public comment. I'm not sure when we're going to do this. This is a matter of debate here at the coordinating board. I told our assistant commissioner yesterday your opinion last time that you wanted the public comments to go out. Did we talk about this?
I don't think
No, I'm getting this committee mixed up with the one I met with last week. It was Natural Resources. I asked Natural Resources, do you want the public comments to go out right away, or do you want to wait until September when departments are back to have department meetings to bring this forward to their faculty, put this as an agenda item on the next department meeting, and talk about the field of study? And they all wanted this to happen in September when the committees come back. Here at the coordinating board, we're inclined to go ahead and send it out ASAP because that's just what we do. We want to get this out as soon as the committee has determined it. But if we don't get many public comments back, if we don't hear from many people, and if we're missing public comments from some of the major programs in the state, especially A&M, we want to hear what they have to say about this. We want to hear what Texas Tech has to say about this. I'd love to hear what West Texas has to say about this. So if we're missing public comments or if we have a range of public comments, maybe we'll send it out for a second round in September, back when all the faculty are back. Andrew, you look uncomfortable. What are you thinking?
I think that's fine. I'd like to get it. I mean, if we can get it done fast, let's get it done. But yeah, if there's not enough public comments, I guess we're gonna have to.
Yeah, if we only get 5 or 6 public comments and they all say, looks great, then we'll probably send it out again in September to see what happens. What happens is when we get the public comments, I will put them all I'll copy them into one single document. I'll take out any identifying information if somebody gives their name. Of course, I'll keep in the institutional affiliation. So this is a response from Texas Tech. This is a response from West Texas A&M. I'll include all of them, good, bad, or otherwise. I'll take the actionable recommendations and put them in the form of a yes or no vote. Now, not all public comments are actionable, okay, because some people will write to complain, I don't like a field of study at all. I don't think the state should be interfering in our curriculum. This all needs to be determined by our own faculty. Boo. Well, valuable comment, but that's not something we can do anything about. That's above our pay grade. That's something they're going to have to send to their state legislature, not to this committee, legislator. So I'll take the actionable public comments, like somebody might say something like, where's my biology class, right? Please include biology in the field of study, and to make room for it, please cut accounting, okay? That's an actionable comment. I'll put that in the form of a yes or no vote. I'll send that to all of you. I'll probably give you a tight turnaround on this, maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, to look these over, get back to me with your votes. I encourage you to read the whole document first before you start voting, because they're going to be duplicate comments. A lot of people will say the same thing, but I'll only put the yes or no vote at the first reference of it. So there might be something at the bottom of the document that would influence your vote to vote up at the top of the document. If the committee decides to make some substantive changes to the fields of study, if there's a majority of yes votes on some of these questions, yes, we want to make this change, then I will take it to our Assistant Commissioner, Rex Peebles. I'll take it to the 2 co-chairs to decide, are these changes substantive enough for us to come back to Austin for a face-to-face meeting? Or are the changes relatively minor and we can go ahead and make the substitution and go with the field of study without sending it back out for another 30-day public comment period? For example, if the committee decides to remove a choice, right? Like right now, we have a choice of business computer applications or computers in agriculture. If after public comments we decide to take out business computer applications and just keep computers in agriculture, that's probably a relatively minor change. Do you follow me? It probably wouldn't merit us all taking time off and expense to come back to Austin to discuss that one agenda item. So if it's something like that, then maybe we'll make the change with the authority that you just gave your co-chairs after your votes, and we'll keep it the way it is. If, however, we make a substantive change, like we take out 3 hours of math, we add a choice, we put biology back in, those are pretty substantive changes. For something like that, I think to follow Open Meetings Act, we'd have to come back, talk about that, and send it back out for another 30-day public comment period, and we keep doing this over and over again until we get it settled. Okay, make sense? Let me emphasize your participation in the public comment voting thing, because the public comment period phase of this process is of equal importance to this meeting, because you're creating the draft. Now we need to hear from the institutions all across Texas. We need to get their buy-in. We need to get their ideas, and then we can filter those and decide which ones work. So I need everybody to participate in the voting. After that, once we get it finalized, it will go to the Committee on Academic Workforce Success, which is a subcommittee of the full board. They meet quarterly. Then if they approve it, it goes 1 month later to the full board for their approval. And then if it's approved there, this would probably be at the October board meeting if everything goes smoothly, because they meet quarterly, and we're going to miss the July board meeting, so it'll have to go to October. If it's approved there, it goes into effect immediately, which means that if a student, by some random weird chance, just happens to have taken all of these courses at a community college, and they apply as a transfer student, the university would need to honor that. But for practical purposes, okay, because a university is going to need a year to adjust their course catalogs, to do faculty hiring, to make changes to the degree plan, et cetera, et cetera. If it's approved in October, it would go into effect in fall 2020, right? Yeah, fall 2020. Maybe even fall 2021, because there wouldn't even be a full year. So probably really fall 2021, right, to meet the new catalog catalog, revision cycle and all that. Okay. And of course, it could be later than that if we decide to come back for a second meeting, or there's a lot of public comments, or if we delay even putting out the public comments until September, right, then we're going to miss the October board meeting, and this whole thing would go on to the January board meeting, which is fine, and then it would definitely go into effect in fall 2021. So that's where we stand for how it works next. So any questions on the machinery of state policy and how all the sausage gets made on things like this? Okay.
So when we receive the public comments, you'll send each of us individually the yes or no movable actions, but we're not to discuss that amongst ourselves?
Yes, that's right. Don't discuss the public comments because that would be a violation of open meeting laws. If you have, you can't email each other. Don't hit reply all when I send this to you and say, I kind of like Texas Tech's idea about the accounting class. Why don't we consider it? You can't do that because that would be, we need to do that in public. What you can do is if you feel like there's a point of clarification or a point of information that you need, like if you, for example, say, I believe Texas Tech is in error here. They say that institutions across the state will require this biology requirement. However, in my institution, please be aware that this is blah, 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 okay? If you have a point of information for the committee, don't send it to each other, send it to me. And then I can send it to everybody as an information item or a contextual information item. So do it that way, okay? But I hope that everybody's clear, and for those watching on the web, I want to emphasize just how open this process really is, okay? Institutions all across the state were invited to submit nominees for the committee. We've got empty chairs here. Public could have come to this meeting. We have opportunity for public testimony. This will go out for a public comment period for 30 days. I'll send it all to you. I encourage you to send it to you, of course, your system and your district institutions to get buy-in. If you have any Facebook groups, listserv groups, email groups, state agencies, if you're just friends and colleagues with people in your discipline across the state, I encourage you to forward this to them and make sure they see the public comment and spread the word about it. After that, if we meet again to discuss the public comments, the public is welcome to come to that meeting as well. When it's considered by the cause meeting, the public can come to that. Then it's considered by the board, the public can come to that to weigh in on all of this. So it's very important to us that when we discuss these things, it's all in an open forum, and we want to hear from people across the state about how well this is going to work, because we also want buy-in from everybody on this. We want everybody to be on board with this. We don't want people, colleges and universities, doing this reluctantly or dragging their feet about it. I mean, we really want people to understand that over 60% now of your students are transfer students. That's the average across the state. And over half your students are going to be transfers in many cases. And this is something that's really going to be helpful to those transfer students in this discipline. So we want everybody to get on board with it as much as we can. So again, any other final questions or points?
Can you please email us the newer version?
Sure, yeah, I'll email everybody this for your records. Don't make this the version that you start sharing right now with everybody. This is just kind of internal committee document for us to draft. Let me clean it up first. Let me put it in the format that we use here at the coordinating board, and I'll format it with a memo that's worded just so about what CIP codes it includes and what it doesn't. I'll get this approved up the chain here at the coordinating board, and then when I send you the version that goes out for public comments, then you can send that one all over the place. But for now, sure, I'll send you a copy of this.
Regarding the changes that you mentioned, like, even the small changes that the co-chairs are going to be manipulating, will that be sent to us, or is it just with the co-chairs?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll ask you to approve the minutes and to make any corrections to the minutes as you see fit. If we make a change based on public comments, of course, you voted on the document, which is a public document, your votes on the public comments. So that would be my way of doing that. If there are any other changes like that, I will certainly email everybody and say, is everybody okay with us including or excluding XYZ or making this change? And, that doesn't really happen very often. But if it does, I'll certainly write everybody and get a committee consensus on that before so the co-chairs can make an informed decision based on what's going on with that. Okay.
And then for the notes I've been taking, should I just clean them up and send them to the committee? Or is
No,
there-
send them to me because I have to format them and think about them and add some things to them. And there's a certain weird coordinating board format. I'm also way behind because I've had like 6 committee meetings in the last 6 weeks. And all these public comments have got to be formatted and done. And I've got public comments coming in on ones that I did a month ago, and they all have to be formatted and sent. And the minutes is kind of my lower priority because all these other things are hinging on board meetings coming up. And I'm just going to barely squeak by here to get these board meeting deadlines. So it may be months before I get these meetings, the minutes done. Plus, I'm going to have to sit down with the recording and listen to it again and fill in some gaps. And that takes a long time. So I apologize in advance. The meetings are probably going to be weeks and weeks from now before I can get to it. So, but I will get to it eventually. But there's like 10 other committees ahead of you on my must-do the meeting minutes right away list. All those committees I showed you, I haven't got their minutes done. So I'm going to do my best on that. But thank you, Savannah. I appreciate it. I'm sure everybody does. I appreciate your notes on this because as you ended up playing computer jockey down here and didn't get to take as many notes as I would have liked to. So thank you. And thank you to our excellent co-chairs who did a great job keeping us on track today. We appreciate this. Any other business for the good of the committee? All right, well, we can have an motion to adjourn early. Excellent.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, all in favor, please rise. Okay, excellent. Thank you very, very much, and I will be in touch.